Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Pillow Fort Talk with Heather, Ivani, and Vale. This is the podcast where we try to talk about specific topics and quickly spiral out of control. Grab a blanket, some wine, and join us in the fort for what we hope is an entertaining and relatable bitch session.
Good.
Don't need that toxic shit anyway.
Like, what the fuck is with adults who just feel like they need to take something they know nothing about and spiral it into... like something from, like, and oh, when she fired this girl, all she told her was, it's just not a good fit.
So is the plan to bring her back?
Well, I mean, think...
can you even bring back Allison?
Can we? Yes. Should we? Not sure. Would she ever want to come back?
I mean, if the person who, you know, was a bitch about her was removed... and they handle that conversation really well, she might give it a shot.
Yeah, because they'd have to be like, we want you back. The person who did this to you is no longer working for us.
The boss
and we
in the
did
office
not
was
yeah, the boss. We did not agree with her actions at this time. Blah blah blah. Like really professional. Maybe she would buy it, but
right. But at the same time, like I have people walking around my office now who are talking about how this girl couldn't even turn a computer on. And we had
like that gossip spread so fucking...
And you're working with men in the construction industry who, when somebody gets hired, are probably going to go, oh, you better know how to work a computer.
Yeah.
And they're going to say it to the wrong person.
Yeah,
They're going to start getting real stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the biggest...
There's no winning here.
Dude, like, it's been a month. Her. It's been a month and our boss is still pissed.
Yeah, I would be too.
I would be too.
Look, I can't believe your boss didn't pull everybody in a room and go, fucking stop it.
Fortunately, he has a little more decorum than that.
Can I pause?
Yeah.
Real quick? I just want to say how nice Vale is to hide her yawns. So considerate, whereas I yawn and I'm like, oh.
I was taught to be very polite.
Yeah,
I just like cover my mouth slightly, or just, I don't want to.
It was such a tiny
be a dick
yawn.
about it.
Yeah.
That's the only feminine thing about me.
Okay, continue.
And not just like...
they're fucking high schoolers. Not even high school, middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Fucking gossiping.
Yes, and it's grown fucking men, y'all.
Just like mind your fucking business.
At least when women gossip, it's fucking true.
Usually, yeah.
Usually it's fucking true. Usually it's true. And the other thing about how we gossip is, at least when you're a mature enough woman, you gossip when you gossip when you get home.
Right.
Yeah.
Here.
It's like you hear all the shit that happens and then you're like, oh, I can't wait to go home and tell my girls because this shit is gonna go
off.
Right.
Yes, like, can you imagine this poor girl, like, she was probably, because I heard her, I was told, but I'm not sure that it's true, that she had been living in a women's shelter.
Oh.
So can you imagine that she either quit a job or had been unemployed and finally got this job that was going to pay her decent and had good hours, and she'd be able to take care of her kid and start moving the right way, and after half a day...
Yeah, that's fucking bullshit.
That's fucking devastating.
It's so garbage, and I'm so mad. Even a month later, I am pissed because, like, the one really nice thing about the company I work for is we're treated like people.
Yeah.
And
that bitch didn't treat that person like a person.
No. And her problem, she doesn't fucking know what she's doing back there. She can't remember anything anybody says. I've told her the same thing like 7 times. And her reason is always, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, bitch, I fucking told you yesterday.
Like,
after telling you a week ago and the week before that.
Like, look, telling my husband, did you clean the cat box? And he goes, no, you didn't say to. Yeah, no, I did. Well, I forgot. That's different, okay? Yeah. But I didn't know I should put this pertinent piece of data in our computer system because it relates to whether we show up to a fucking job or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, like, you can pull that shit on, like, mundane stuff, but you can't pull that on, like, work. Like, you can't put that on serious fucking... It's like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, no, I'm not telling you, oh, I told you to take out the trash and you forgot. Or, oh, I need you to turn off fucking, I don't know, the coffee maker is going to keep running. I didn't know that. Like, no, I'm telling you, this is like a work situation. Know it, remember it, and get the fuck out of here.
Like, I realize that what we do is not life and death, so we're pretty chill about most mistakes. But just me as an individual, if I tell you something more than 3 times, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. Yeah. I can't, especially like at work, I don't have the patience for you to not have your shit together.
Right.
Now, if it's something that I've told you 3 times over 3 years, fair. Yeah. It's a rare occurrence. But I told you this week, I told you this last week, and I told you this the day I trained you. Because, yeah, I fucking trained you, dipshit.
Yeah, like, I know I told you this.
And you swear up and down, I'm not about data.
And you're not, like, dealing with children.
No!
It's like, you're dealing with grown-ass adults. It's not like you're dealing with children. Get on top of your shit. Just get on top of your shit.
When you've got it, like, a kid my age, you probably should know a little more than I do at this point in life.
Right.
Like
how to function.
How to not be a insensitive bitch. Like, that's why we're sure that her beef is not this girl's capabilities, but this girl's personal life.
Yeah. But, like, there's also... People aren't maturing right nowadays. I mean, I don't know if it's nowadays, but I'll be seeing some people who are like, okay, so I know this person who started working at a bank, and they're like, oh, we're gonna have to let you go because you're using your phone all the time. So he went to his supervisor and said, every morning you have to take away my phone because I don't have enough self-restraint to not use my phone. So treat me like a child and take my phone away.
What the fuck kind of bullshit? Leave it in your car!
Like, I heard this shit, and I was like, no fucking way. You can't be an adult and be acting like that. You're not a little kid. The teacher doesn't need to take away your phone away.
Right.
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, that's some fucking bullshit. Yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of immature adults that I didn't think I would have to deal with, and it's really just like, y'all are still in middle school. Like, you never got past middle school.
No, it's this weird, like, thing of these people have to be the center of attention. They have to always be right, and nothing's ever their fault. Like, I don't get this lack of ownership that people don't take for their own mistakes.
Right. I don't get it, especially in the professional aspects. Like, I'm just like, how did you make it this far? Like,
yeah.
People are just, I don't know what's wrong with people, because another thing that I've noticed, because I had a supervisor who would do this, like, he likes to be center of attention, and he likes to, like, show off in front of everyone to make, like, himself look like the big man. Ugh. Like, so he would always come and tell us, like, ridiculous ass stories where 50% of them were probably true, and then 50% of them should probably put him in jail. Yeah. But he'd tell them in a work environment, and you're like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Just because he wanted everyone to think he was the most, like, fucking, I'm the most manly, I'm the most macho. Like, he told us a story about how he paid someone to go beat up his ex-wife, then went to a McDonald's, bought an ice cream cone, and took that ice cream cone to an ATM, so that at the time that he was being beat up, or that she was being beat up, he was in front of a security camera. So if she said that it was him, they had proof where he was. And I was like, dude, okay, what's going on here?
First off,
he's a psychopath.
If she accused him of doing it or being behind it, they wouldn't just go, oh, ATM footage is good. Because obviously he wasn't there. But she's going to say, no, it wasn't him, but I think he had them do it.
Yeah.
His story, he said, oh, so she went to the cops and said that I beat her up. But I have proof that I went to a fucking McDonald's, and then after that McDonald's, I went to an ATM. But she said that it was me.
Yeah, so then when the cops go talk to your coworkers, they're going to be like, yeah, fucker told me this story.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, oh, he was at the ATM with a McDonald's ice cream cone. This must be true. And they're going to arrest his ass. And now it's contracted attempted murder.
Right.
And that is a felony charge.
Crazy fucking shit. And then he'd say the shit in a work environment. And I was like, people not know what professionalism is, and do people not realize how psycho they are?
First, if you want to get away with it, don't fucking run your mouth.
So, like, it turns out there was a rumor going around that, so he got fired, and a little while later, he got rehired, and he sued the hospital. Because the cameras aren't allowed to have microphones. And they recorded him saying one of his crazy-ass shit that he says, and they used it against him. And he sued them because legally the cameras aren't allowed to have microphones.
What?
Not that he's fucking crazy and he's doing this fucking shit. No. Those cameras have microphones.
Hey.
Hospital got sued.
Which means, actually, they can't use that in a court of law because they illegally obtained the recording.
Yeah.
He's not dumb. Unfortunately, he's not an idiot psychopath.
He's a psychopath, but he's not an idiot. He's a psychopath. I mean, he's an idiot for saying those stories, because then it's like, oh, that thing didn't record it, but let me ask, your coworkers, the people who work under you, you're a fucking supervisor, and you're just telling everyone this story.
Right, but still, even if people said, yes, he directly told me this, that makes it not hearsay. They're now a witness. But also, they could say in court that it was recorded, but they can't use the recording because the recording was illegally obtained.
Yeah.
It was a whole mess. And when I saw him, like, he was fired, and then a week later he was back at work, and I was like, what? What? What's going on here?
That's
and
insane.
then one of the other people told me, and like, gossip fucking flies. Yeah. One of my other supervisors came over and told me, and I was like, what? Is this really what fucking happened? I'm not sure if that's really what fucking happened, but that's what the gossip told. The gossip mill just fucking spit this shit out.
That's wild. I hate people.
You gotta know, if you're gonna talk, especially at work, if you're gonna talk about stuff, first off, you gotta know who you're talking to.
Yep.
And you gotta be careful about what you say. There are people you should not run your mouth to. I don't care how irritated, how pissed off, like the whole thing I was just telling you guys about. Like, I had people asking me, because I'm also the person who posts our job openings. So everybody knows I probably know.
Yeah.
And you have people ask me, what the hell happened? That's fucked. Like, what is that shit? And I'm like, I agree. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
There's like two people I can talk to, and I know, like, if I'm frustrated with something, I can go vent to them, and I know that it's not going to suddenly be all around the company.
Yeah.
Like, but we have people who literally, they just don't know how not to run their mouths. They just cannot keep their mouth shut no matter what. They always have to be the center of attention. And this happens in friend groups too, is you always have that one person that runs their mouth to anybody they can run their mouth to, and will twist a story to make them sound like a hero with no problem at all.
Yep.
And it doesn't make them a bad person. Like, they obviously have some very deep-seated needs that weren't fulfilled.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, most of the time, depending on the person, obviously, I don't think they're doing it with malicious intent.
That's something that I struggle with, is when I have somebody in my friend group that I know has psychological issues, mental health issues, I end up giving them too much leeway, because I'm like, I understand why you're acting this way. And then it backfires on me, and I'm like, it's just not acceptable, because I'm a very chill person, and it takes a lot to get me to that point where I'm like, this is unacceptable. Yeah. Like, but when you reach that point, bye-bye, I'm not making any excuses for your behavior now, because I'm also the type of friend who tries to guide you in the right direction.
Well, as an adult, you should know, like, hey, that behavior is unacceptable. I understand why you're doing it. It doesn't justify what you're doing. Right. And then as a cognizant, self-aware adult, like, and I'm guilty of this, I have this thing where once I'm oversaturated, I'll snap really easy.
What do you mean over-exaggerated?
Saturated.
Oh, oversaturated.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'll snap really easy, and I'll just get upset about something that I have no business being that upset about. It's just the crescendo. And I have no problem. And literally sometimes it's 3 minutes later and sometimes it's an hour later. I'll come back and I'll be like, hey, like, I realized the way I said that sounded really shitty and I apologize. Like, I've had a rough day and it's not an excuse for my behavior, but I don't want you to think I was trying to make you feel bad or trying to come at you in any way. I just had a lot going on and I reacted inappropriately. I apologize.
Yeah, like taking that ownership. Yeah.
And it's fine. Sometimes it's a day later. Sometimes it's a week later. Like, that you need to kind of get through yourself. But there's this lack of, like, self-awareness that people have now.
There's also a lot of people that I've found in my life who use the excuse of, well, it happened and I'm moving on. No, there are other people involved in this.
Right.
That's like you affected other people. Like, you affected other people and they have to live with the consequences of your actions. So you should also live with the consequences of your actions.
Yeah. I had a former employer who did that shit to me, who treated me like shit for a whole year, and then I left because I was like, I'm not fucking getting treated like this. And then a year passed, and I sat down. I was told by friends, like, hey, you should talk this out, see if it, maybe it was just a bad time. And I sat down with him and I tried to talk it out, and the whole time he was trying to twist it on me, being like, I don't remember it that way, and being like, I can't believe we're talking about this 2 years later, blah, blah, blah. Like,
that's like a combination of like gaslighting and like, oh yeah, that didn't happen that way, or you're remembering it like, no, it wasn't my fault. Like,
yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think some people gaslight and don't realize they're gaslighting. Mm-hmm. And some people intentionally do it, and that really sounds like he was intentionally doing it.
I don't think it was intentional, but it was severe.
Yeah.
But like, if he isn't owning up to what he did, like the whole thing just starts off on the wrong foot, and then after that moment, he's gaslighting you because he doesn't want to take responsibility for what happened.
But doesn't want to see himself or accept himself in that light.
Right, because there's also we've gotten in arguments, and like we'll talk about something later, and I'll be like, that's not what I said, but maybe it is what I said, but not what I meant.
Right.
And you have to like come to this point as an adult where you're like, well, wait a minute, you're not in my head.
Right, exactly.
I know what I'm thinking, I know what I'm feeling, and maybe when I say something, it doesn't come out the way I intend it to do, or it comes out the way I think makes sense, but your perception of that is different. So you don't really have to say, I was wrong. You can say, I was wrong for making you feel this way. I apologize. That's not what I intended to say, or the way I intended to make you feel. I was trying to communicate this, and clearly I did not do that well.
And it comes down to being able to have that adult conversation. And a lot of people lack the ability to have that adult conversation.
For sure.
Like, when we have that issue, I roll back on saying the same thing all the time. I'm like, words have meaning. You have to use the words to, like, the right words to get your thought across, because I can't read your mind. And if you say something like wrong, if you say something and you said the exact opposite of what you mean, I only heard what you said. I don't know what you mean. Words have meaning, and you have to use the words to fucking describe what your thought is. And I used to have the discussion all the time here, and I was like, words have meaning. You need to use the words for this conversation to move forward. Words have meaning.
Jack and I used to have that conversation a lot, and now I'm sure, Avani, you've probably heard it during streams at some point. I don't know if you have, Vale, but probably, where Jack will say something and I'll be like, this? And he'll be like, no, this. And I'll be like, well, why didn't you just say that the first time?
Oh yeah, we noticed.
Yeah. It's and like, what are you talking about?
But Mark does it too. He'll say something and he'll be 2 conversations ahead of where I am.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, 2 conversations back from where we are. And I'll apply what he's saying to the context of the moment we're in, but his brain is 5 minutes ago because he's just had a revelation.
Yeah.
And so he'll just say something, and it's not like what he's saying isn't wrong or anything like that. But now I'm frustrated and confused because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you didn't preface the context of what you were saying.
And they're like, well, why don't you know what I'm talking about? It's just like...
I do that. Like, I just take a really long pause and then just look and be like... So he'll say something, and I'll be like, context.
Yes.
Like, I'll pause and let the second just sit there to see if he hits it, like, see if it reaches him, and then I'll just stop. Context. I need context. I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
context.
I say more words. Give me more words.
Yeah, I don't full stop. I usually, like, I pause because in my brain I'm trying to work it out. because
I full stop and I'm like, let it marinate for a second. Just let it sit there with you. Realize that I'm not there and get to where we need to be.
We were talking about point A and now you're here. So I'm trying to follow the roadmap to get where you are.
We were talking about plates and suddenly you said these shoes are brown.
How? No, I don't got it. What do you mean?
Exactly.
It's the meme of the lady with all the math equations around her head.
Yeah, that's me. And it's like anytime we're talking about media is when it happens the most. Jack and I will be talking about a video game and the lore, and then like a pause will happen and he'll say something new and I'm like, we were just talking about that doesn't make sense. So
because he just had a whole ass conversation in his head on his own, and he just says one thing, and you're like, "What? What? Are you seizure?"
That doesn't make sense.
Like, remember the voice inside your head that responds. Just, I seem to remember that. I wasn't part of that conversation.
I have
Sometimes if I'm tired, I'm just like, yeah, and I let it go.
I don't let it go that often. I'll be honest. You gotta
take your wins where they come in.
I just accept it sometimes.
I mainly just take that pause and wait for it to marinate. Just let it sit there.
Most of the time when that happens, it's Jack being so excited to share with me whatever he's just figured out. And if I'm tired, like I said, I'll just let it go because I'm just like, I'll just let him think I understand what he's saying. He's happy. I'm happy. We can move on.
I have 100% gotten to the point where sometimes I will go, okay, no, don't get mad. But I can't remember if I had this conversation in my head or with you or both. So I'm going to say it again, but don't get mad because I don't remember if it was an internal dialogue or an external dialogue.
Yes, I do that a lot too, yeah. I'm just like, did I say this to you?
When I do the whole out of context thing, I'll say something that's completely out of context, pause, wait, and put my hand up and be like I'll say the thing, and I'm like, wait, I'm going to say the thing so that you're engaged in the topic, and then I'm going to tell you the context. I don't know why I do this, but I did it like literally yesterday. I don't remember what it was. Like, I said a sentence and I was like, and I was in the middle of saying the context and he was like, what? And I was like, wait, I'm about to tell you. Just wait a second. I'm going to get to the context.
I love that he was yelling, this isn't about you, Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. It's literally, oh, my God. It was his favorite thing. Like, we were talking about it, and he was like, I was like, we were talking, because we have, like, conversations about, like, current events and shit, and we were talking about, this time it wasn't current events. We were gossiping about someone. Mm-hmm. And how they're, like, they turned very anti-woman recently, and they're, like, have really misogynist views. Mm-hmm. And then we were talking about something, and I mentioned, about how in general something men, and he agreed, and I was like, I'm glad you agreed, because if you were Jack you'd be like, yeah, but I don't. And then he was like, what? And I had to tell him the whole story. And then I was like, because me, Avani, and Heather were talking about something, and he was like trying to defend men, and then we were like, no, it's not like you, we're just saying men in general. And he was like, he kept defending it. I was like, it's not about you, Jack, this isn't about you.
That video should be on
he
YouTube.
Was walking through the house, and then like he goes, this isn't about you, Jack.
I don't know how to get it through his head because I really genuinely don't think he understands, and I just don't know how to explain it to him. He does it with the backseat gaming stuff too. Like, he doesn't understand, he doesn't see how he's doing it. So a lot of times he'll be like, but I wasn't. And I'm like, but honey.
No, and Mark does the same thing. He backseat games too, and it actually caused an argument one night. And I was like, look, I understand that your intention is to be helpful.
Right.
I understand that you're not trying to frustrate me or whatever, but you have to let me figure it out. And then if I need help, let me ask.
Yeah.
Like, that's, and I think it really is just this good nature in them that they want to be helpful and they don't want to see us frustrated and they don't want us, you know.
I'm the one who's better at gaming. I'm the one who backseats games. But since I have the, like, my woman perspective, I don't like backseat game. I'm like, I'll wait till something like he doesn't do something right like 3 times in a row, and then I'll say how you do it, and he's like, oh, okay, and then he fucking does it. But I'm not sitting there like, oh, instead, like before you even try it, you have to do this. I'm like, no, let him try. He needs experience. He'll learn.
That's why, like, overall, like in a lot of games, I'm actually a little bit better than Jack, or I know things. Like we were playing Jack and Daxter. We were playing Jack and Daxter, and he was playing and he was having a rough time with a couple of them, and I was like, oh, you know, just try this, and he'll be like, what? And I'll be like, oh yeah, you didn't know that, blah 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 blah, and it'll be fine. And that's just like, but it's after you've tried a couple times and you're like getting frustrated, like it's at least I get frustrated first and then I'll help you. Like
I don't know if it's like a nurturing thing that women do. It's like when you watch a little kid fail and you're just like, oh, let him experience it first and then let's help out. Like I feel like that's the like instinct that we mainly have. I don't
you're not gonna learn
like
anything
gender bias
if you don't
or anything,
fail.
but like
well, but I also
like instead of not letting you even try, I'm like, I'm gonna tell you what to do, I'm gonna tell you how to do it, and you're gonna already do it. Like, no, let him try. Let him see where it goes. Let's see where this ship goes.
I also recognize that I don't always, like, my way is not always the only way.
Yeah.
And, like especially in video games, there are multiple ways to come to the solution. I'm gonna let you try and find one first.
Like, I have the bad habit that I always think I'm right. Because I've been right so many times.
Yeah.
The vast number of times I have been right, and I sometimes have to rein it in because now I always think I'm right. But then I know that I always think I'm right, so I'm like, I know that I'm always right, and I'm
Me
like,
too.
God fucking damn it,
But
I'm stuck in an endless loop.
Your rightness ratio to his wrongness ratio really tells you that you're always right.
It's not even like him in general. Like, I mean, it's not him specific. It's like in general, because we had some friends come over, we were playing a trivia game, and like I mentioned something. And they're like, oh no, that's not right. And I was like, I took a pause and I turned my head, and my husband goes, yeah, I don't think you should go against her because she's like always right. Like, he's like, I don't think you should, there's not a word in English for this, but in Spanish, it's like when you like swear a bunch that you're right, and in Spanish it's called porfiar, and he's like, no la porfie, because she's gonna be fucking right, don't do it, don't tell her, don't swear it up and down that you're right and then find out you're wrong. And my husband's like, let me Google this real quick, and he turns and he looks, he's like, yeah, she was fucking right. Like, 'cause I'm so right so often that I forget that I can be wrong sometimes. I'm like, that is my bad habit.
Yeah, I also experience that, and I also am in the same boat where I'm like, no, I'm not always right, but I'm right a majority of the time. And it's been to a point in our relationship where even Jack is like, yeah, you're right most of the time. And it's actually been a frustration for him sometimes. Like, if we get in an argument, and it's a big argument, which we don't have often, but when we have big arguments, it's usually his fault. And he always, like, when he comes to that realization, he's always, he gets really upset about it, because he's like, I'm always wrong, I always do the blah blah blah. And it's like, no, it's not a bad thing, but like, use your head earlier. I don't know.
Like, in my case, I had a better upbringing. He had a very so great upbringing.
Yeah.
So I have more, like, I have a different perspective on things, and I, like, was nurtured to learn more things. So when I'm always right, it's not his fault that he's not right. He didn't get to experience these things. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so like things that I used to think were common sense, I didn't realize were not common sense, but they were common sense if you were raised correctly. Or not correctly, but more nurtured, I guess.
Well, and that's what's interesting is, like, I was very well nurtured by one parent and not well nurtured by the other, so I gained the skills from one parent, and with the other side of it, I had to figure out a lot of skills. I had to figure out a lot of those common senses. And I'm still figuring out a lot of things from that missing side. But he had a really great supportive upbringing in a lot of ways, but very, like, as far as like mental health and stuff, where he comes from, that isn't really talked about in his family.
Well, in that, the mental
In
health
my
side
case-
is very a Catholic thing. Like, we don't talk mental health. Okay, it's not you're either fine or you're fucked up, and they don't. It's gotten better in the Catholic Church, but when I was growing up, if your parents divorced, you are no longer welcome in the Catholic Church.
Oh,
really?
wow.
Even if
I think I didn't know a single person that parents weren't divorced. I was the only person whose parents didn't divorce.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I think it's. I was like, really?
I guess maybe it could be different, like, regionally. But yeah, we were raised Roman Catholic, and even though my mom left my dad because he was an abusive alcoholic, we weren't welcome at our church anymore.
Religion.
Oh, wow.
We had to go to another
religion
Catholic
and
church
area
in
has a
town.
lot to do with it.
Yeah. So we started going to another Catholic church in town, but even at the time, my sister and I went to Catholic school, and she had just moved on to high school, which my parents did, or my mom did Catholic school for us as children, but public school for us as high schoolers, because she wanted us to have those different, well, A, money, B, she wanted us to have those different experiences.
Yeah.
And because Catholic school is very sheltered. And she wanted us to be able to function in a human society, and understand what the world was like. And my mom started out Methodist, not Catholic, and she was not a churchgoer.
So funny.
But she had to convert to marry my dad. Anyway, so like, even in school, I was treated different by the other children after my parents divorced. Because their parents told them, hey, don't. Their family's bad.
What the frick?
I swear, growing up from like when I was the youngest I can remember until like now, I only knew like 2 people whose parents didn't divorce.
And that's what it was when I went to public school.
Human that I knew had divorced parents, and I was like, yeah, that's just natural. Everyone gets divorced. And I was like, wait, my parents aren't divorced. I was like the only one whose parents weren't divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like,
like
when I went to public school, almost everybody had single parent households, or like a mom and a grandparent or something. But in private school, there was like 2 other kids that had single parent households, and everybody else, their parents were married.
Like, we grew up, both my parents are Catholic, and we went to church all the time. And even in church, like, their best friends were, like, a divorced mother, a divorced father, a person on their 3rd marriage. My mom's best friend from the church had, like, 5 failed marriages. She has the best stories ever. Like, off one of these streams, I'm gonna tell you about that woman because fucking hilarious. But, like, anyway, before I was talking about the common sense, not common sense thing, while I was very nurtured, as culturally, we have very big families, and big families that are close. So, I don't know if that's something that in the U.S. they do a lot, but, like, the vast majority of my cousins were, like, my siblings.
Yeah.
But, so my parents were very nurturing, and they didn't have a lot of bad things happen. While my cousins had a whole bunch of bad shit happen. So we learned it's not like even right from wrong. So it's like we learned all the other things that you wouldn't learn from having a sheltered life. We learned because we were close to these people and we watched them do it. And there's a saying in Spanish, I don't have to hit myself against the wall to know that it hurts.
Right.
So that's like, we learned that because we saw those people do it, and we don't have to fall into the same thing over and over. So, like, they didn't have that. So my husband, like, he didn't learn the same way I learned. So I learned all the sheltered living, but also learned all of the unsheltered living, because since it was like a huge conglomeration of a family. We had everyone's experiences over here and everyone's experiences over there, and well, I didn't have to hit myself against the wall to know that it hurts.
Yeah, I mean, you can learn a lot just by hearing and seeing it, and getting that not really firsthand, it's that secondhand knowledge. Like, I had friends who went through a lot worse than I went through, and I learned a lot about many things from those experiences. And thankfully, I will never put myself in those situations because I know how it got there, I know what happened, and I know how it ended.
But there's like other people who hear that experience and are like, damn, that sucks, and just keep moving. It's like, no, damn, that sucks, but that was also a lesson.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Stop right here, learn the lesson. This is your checkpoint.
This is a gift of knowledge. Here you go.
Quest Kitty says, listen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
An exclamation point, no, a question mark popped over your head. You picked up the quest. Learn.
Yeah.
Y'all know that friend who is no longer my friend?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So after she fucked me over, she when she got me the job, right? She referred me. I did the interview. I did a very good interview because I'm good at that. And I got hired. I got hired at a higher amount than she did. Granted, I have a lot more on my resume that is relevant than she does, and I was coming from a corporate job, so I came in with some demands. I came in saying, like, look, I'm not going to leave my current company unless I'm guaranteed certain things, So when I got hired, the first couple of months, she was, like, super happy for me. And then she started making comments about how I was making more than her. But she wouldn't necessarily make them to me. She only made them to me like once or twice, as in a like, oh, I know it's not your fault, but, you're making more than me. They hired you, blah, blah, blah. Right? So, but she would make those comments to other people. And I don't think she told anybody what I got hired at. And she certainly doesn't know what I'm making now. But still. So we have a friend in the office who was trying to be friends for both of us, trying to be there for both of us during our little meltdown. And she's kind of like me. Like, we're the same in a lot of ways, like really big, good-hearted people trying to help people. We both kind of share the title of office moms, that type of deal. But she was talking to, I'll just say, Electra. She was talking to Electra, and it was just the two of them in the office. And at one point, Electra was like, I do not get paid enough for everything that I do, which she's been doing the same job for a few months, and she's struggling with it. She always has struggled with it. And she even got the bosses to hire somebody to help her with the job, and she was talking it up like, oh, when I get help, I'll be able to be on top of it. She's still behind. So, but anyway, so she got this other person hired. She's talking to, I forgot my coworker's name. Tina. She was talking to Tina about how she's not making enough money and blah, 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 and Tina's trying to be there and help her, and Tina's like, hey, you should advocate for yourself, and blah, blah, blah. And was like, well, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you make? And Tina, I totally understand where she is in this place. I felt so on the spot and, like, pressured in that conversation, because I will say, I love the person that she can be, but the other person that she can be is a really toxic, manipulative person. And I didn't realize until after she hit me in the face with a brick with it. So even though Tina was like, I felt in the moment that I shouldn't tell her, but I felt pressured into telling her. Anyway, Tina tells her what she's making. And Electra gets all pissed and tells Tina, well, you're making this, and this person's making that, and this person's making that. And just tells Tina what these other two coworkers are making. And then Electra's like, I am not getting paid enough. And Tina comes over to me the next day, and she's like, I am panicking. Because she was like, I felt like I shouldn't tell her, but I ended up telling her, and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm sure it's fine. I was like, as long as she doesn't, like, fucking tell people what you're making and, like, use it against you or whatever. Like, usually during our friendship, I didn't realize this, but I think I was kind of putting a leash on her a lot and influencing her in my way of, like, you really shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't say that, and stuff like that. And I feel like now that I'm not that influence, and the only influence she has are unstable friends who didn't call her on accountability. I feel like she's kind of let loose because she's been a little wild lately. And she ended up last week, actually, let me reverse it. Like a month ago, I saw an email that she sent to one of our utilities because we're solar. Mm-hmm. So you have to ask the utility, like, hey, can we hook up our solar into your system, into your grid? And she was sending an email back and forth with the utilities, and she was typing in all caps and saying, this is insane, this is ridiculous, does nobody read these, blah, blah, blah. And it was just a little off the handle, right? And I sent a message to my boss, and I was like, listen, I don't want to start issues, but I saw this. It seems a little off the handle. And as somebody representing your company, I just want to make sure that you're aware that this is how she's speaking to the utility. Right? He didn't say anything. He knows that I'm not trying to start shit. He and I have had plenty of conversations since the big meltdown. So that was that. And then last week, Actress sent an email to to the two owners and our direct boss. And I don't know the exact contents of the email, but from what Tina told me, one of the bosses contacted her and was like, I just need to know, did you give her this information? And basically the boss said she didn't name names, but the way she wrote it, she might have said the person who sits to the left of this other person. And basically she was like, I know for a fact that this person is making this much. And that's how she advocated for she needs more money, by using information given to her, in confidence against that person, instead of, actually advocating for herself and coming up with reasons why she deserves more money. So Tina was really upset, and she feels backstabbed and everything. But the reason why I was excited to tell you guys this story is because the petty bitch in me is so happy. Because the petty bitch in me is like, yes, burn your bridges. Show who you really are. So as soon as I heard this story, I started I felt so bad because Tina told me the whole story, got through everything, and I was like, yeah, man, damn. And then I started laughing, and she was like, why are you laughing? I'm so upset. And I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you or the situation. I am laughing that she's just proving to everybody that she's a piece of shit.
There is
this, now everyone sees who she really is. Like, these are her colors, and everyone thought she was like this type of person, and it turns out, whoops.
Exactly. Like, everybody was like there is not a single person who knows what happened between us that thinks I'm in the wrong for what happened. But everybody's like, people make mistakes. They don't, she's young. She doesn't fully understand certain things. Like, she'll get there eventually, and which I get. And I was feeling that way in the beginning too. But the more I reflect back on everything that's happened in our friendship, like the more I realized she wasn't good for me. She's not a good friend. She's not mature at all. And if I had just gone along with a lot of the things that she was doing or saying that we should do, it wouldn't have been great for me. And the things that I did do that with, it wasn't great for me. So, you know, now I'm starting to see her for how toxic she can be. And I'm starting to identify those things that I'm like, damn, I can't believe I didn't see this earlier. And it's so great to see her blowing up. I don't know why. I feel like an awful person, but like,
sometimes it's good to have that like petty, it's not even petty revenge because you didn't do anything, but
I didn't do anything. Yeah.
You're like, you fell over your own shit. It's like your own pitfall. Like, bitch, you did this to yourself, and I'm just enjoying the ride.
It's fucking karma. It's karma.
Yeah. Seeing karma happen can be so cathartic.
Yep.
When you didn't cause it. Like, when you cause it, you're like, oh, fuck, that's gonna bite me in the fucking ass.
Yeah.
But when their own shit screws them, it's so... And it's I don't know. I don't think it's bad to feel that way, but sometimes I feel guilty feeling that way. But it's just so nice to see somebody get what they deserve sometimes, because when somebody fucks you over so hard and you're like, I'm going to be the better person, I'm just going to walk away from this, I'm not going to wish ill on you, I am just going to move on.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, I hope you get exactly in life what you deserve.
When
that sounds like a threat.
Yeah, right.
But it
is.
That sounds like a threat.
You can say that, but at the same time, I'm like, no. You know what? I hope that whatever you deserve in life comes to you, whether it's good or whether it's bad or whether it's the consequences of your own decisions. I hope you have to face that.
That's you saying the universe will give you what you give it.
Exactly.
It's like, you'll get what's coming to you.
Yeah, I don't need to dish anything out because you're going to get exactly what you deserve in life because you create your own situation.
And the thing is, like, and it's great because I literally have done nothing wrong. Like, well, I mean, I'm sure I've made calls in our friendship that weren't the best. And if they were ever brought up to me and we talked about it, I'm sure I would see it. But like right now with what I'm thinking back on, what I'm reflecting on, I really didn't do shit. And like, I tried my best to be a supportive, good influence for her. I did so much for her. When she didn't have a place to go, I gave her a place for super cheap with the intention that she would save up money, deal with her debts, be able to save up for her own place. And, she wasted that opportunity. That's her fault. But at the end of the day, I tried my best the whole time to be a good friend to her, so much so that I lost myself in it, and I started like backing away from my boundaries. I started letting things go that normally I would be like, this is not cool. But like when everything happened, and I was still feeling some type of way, like a month and a half out, I would go to my friends, go to the people who were supportive to me, and I'd say like, hey, like I'm feeling really shitty today. And eventually three people at my job were like, have you tried just clearing the air? Like, enough time has passed. Have you, like, you don't have to talk about the situation. You don't have to rehash the situation, but just clear the air. So I did that, even though I didn't want to. I realized it was probably better just to like be like, look, whatever happened here at work, we're cool. Right? So I went out for a walk for like 15 minutes with her, and I was like, I told her that I missed her, because I do. I miss the friendship that we had, and I miss her because she's easy to love because she's a big, bubbly, energetic person. And I miss that. So I told her I missed her. She didn't say it back. I told her...
It only hurts a little bit.
Yeah, right? Like, fuck me, I guess.
Yeah, fuck me, all right? I guess I have feelings. Just fucking, all right.
Yeah. Everything that I did for you, apparently you don't miss. I told her that, you know, as far as work, like, I'm done with the awkwardness. I'm done with all of that. Like, we're cool. And I told her, like, I'm not interested in rehashing the situation. I'm not going to approach anybody else who was involved with the situation, which really there wasn't. Everybody who had an opinion shouldn't have had an opinion because they weren't there. And they're all the people on her side, so I'm not surprised anyway. But they're also her age, so also not surprised. But but like, you know, I said all of this stuff, and the only thing she really said in response was that she appreciated me talking to her, and also that she thinks we should rehash it. Which, luckily, our conversation got cut short, but when we went back inside, she chatted me on our work messenger and was like, hey, let me know, you know, when you're free one night, we can hang out and talk a little bit more. Obviously, I never fucking followed up with that. I ignored that comment, and I intend to ignore it for the rest of my life. But
I'll be honest, I would too. I wouldn't want to reopen that wound. She's never gonna really understand what she did. It's kind of pointless.
Well, I mean, it's
maybe in
and it's more
10
for
years,
your mental health.
Yeah.
Maybe in 10 years when she's in your seat, she'll get it.
Right.
But now she's never gonna get it.
Just like, yeah, she's not gonna get it, and it's just you're gonna be taking like mental health damage.
Yeah,
like, let's put this as a game.
Yeah.
You're just taking damage over like for no no reason, sort of no reason, but you're the only one who's gonna be affected.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly, because like and that's what everybody was saying when they were telling me that I should talk to her. They were like, she's not gonna get it. You shouldn't rehash it. Like, everybody was saying that. You should not rehash it. Because, like, right now, she's not going to get it. And even if she does get it, it's not going to do anything for me. Like, being right, I know I'm right. Like, I don't need her to tell me I'm right. I don't need her to tell me that she caused me a lot of pain and trauma. I don't need that. But I think she's still, like, her responses during our conversation, like, that also indicated to me that she still thinks I'm wrong. She still thinks that Jack's a piece of shit. She really believes that shit, and I'm not interested in having that argument. You know, like, I'm ready to move on, and nothing that can be talked about is going to take back the way you reacted in that moment, regardless. So it's not gonna like rewind all the fucking. It's not gonna rewind the fact that I didn't eat for a week because I was so distraught over your bullshit. Like, it's not gonna take back the fact that you pretty much kind of ruined my Christmas, one of the most important holidays to me in my house. Like, you know, like, it's not gonna take any of that back. So, like, there's no point. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share the petty happiness with you guys. And the karma that is currently going down. And I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
I'm all for it. I'm all for petty karma. It's not even petty. It's just like straight karma. That's karma for the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's that pure, unadulterated karma.
And
That's pure, unadulterated, bitch, you did this to yourself.
It's delicious.
No, I love that shit.
Or say a thing. You did this all by yourself.
You embarrass yourself in front of the 3 most important people in our company. Like,
you're gonna burn these bridges and you ain't going nowhere, bitch.
Yep.
Don't try and pull that shit if you haven't built up enough good karma to protect your own ass.
Oh, yeah. One of the things she hated and she would tell me about all the time was how they seem to love me. And they don't give that same attention to her. And what she doesn't realize is they love me because I go out of my way to do things for them.
I built all of this good karma. I built this good relationship. I did things that make people like me?
Yeah, God forbid.
That's a crazy concept.
Yeah.
No one would ever thought of that.
Yeah, like, if you do things for the people, like, they'll appreciate you and they'll do things for you back. That's how it works.
And they'll often tend to give you the benefit of the doubt when something happens.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously you can't do that with, like, manipulative, malicious intent.
No.
But
like,
there are people who do.
Yeah, and honestly, like, that's kind of what she did to the other coworker. Like, she was like, oh, you know, we have a good enough friendship. In confidence, tell me what you make. And then used it against her.
Yeah, she was manipulated into it, and then...
Yeah.
It bit her in the ass. And that's, like, that's the thing, is I hate when people who are really genuinely trying to help just get shafted so hard because they were trying to do the right thing.
Yep.
And in the end, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Because, like, when you're a good person, you don't see others with malicious intent. Like, you have, like, rose-colored glasses. You see everyone just, like, basic, normal. Like, you don't realize the snake in the grass because you don't think like a snake in the grass.
Exactly. And that's what everybody that I talk to about it tells me, is every time I'm like, I just can't believe I didn't see it, they're like, well, you saw all the good, so you would excuse the bad because it wasn't that bad, when in retrospect it was kind of bad.
Well, and when you care about somebody, you're gonna tend to say, oh, they're just having a bad day.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going through it right now.
Or I understand where this is coming from because I know their past. I know, you know, their traumas. Like, I understand why you reacted that way. And,
but at some point, that's got to stop being an excuse for people. And I think that's probably her problem, is people have always given her that excuse. She's always had the out of, my behavior is okay because I'm damaged. And, I mean, I don't think there's anybody in this group of people who's not damaged.
No.
And
I don't think there's, like, anyone in the world who doesn't have their own damage. Like,
right.
And, but yet we don't, like, we'll still call each other on shit.
Yeah.
Like, even Mark, I'll be like, look, honey, I know this isn't the response you want to hear from me, but your behavior probably wasn't appropriate, and this is why I feel that way. I understand why you behaved that way. Yeah. I understand why you made the decision you did, but maybe you need to rethink it.
Yeah.
I do that. I was like, I understand where this is coming from. Doesn't mean it's correct, but I understand where it's coming from.
Right, because you can tell somebody, I understand, I'm sympathetic to what is going on, I get why you reacted that way, I don't fault you for reacting that way, but you need to understand that it was not the appropriate way to react and correct your behavior for the future.
Yeah. And it's a problem when, you know, like what I experienced with her and our mutual friend, who I am also not friends with anymore, is that when I would be that person, suddenly I wasn't validating their feelings, and suddenly I was a know-it-all.
Yeah.
That's how that became. And so I would stop trying to, you know, be the adult in the friendship, and I would just keep it to myself and, you know, fit into the friendship because I still felt like I was able to influence them in a good way. I still felt like, you know, they're my friends, I should still keep trying, but I'll just bring it back a little bit, and then I stopped being myself. And that's a boundary that I never want to let go of again, because that's not a real friendship.
No. No, real friends are the friends. No, real friends are the friends that tell
like
you.
Like the craziest deja vu right now that's making me feel like I'm high. Like, if you notice, I look, like, really weird right now. Like, I'm having this crazy deja vu where, like, the last, like, minute and a half has been a complete, just continuous deja vu. And I'm, like, just, like, feeling like I'm just going through space right now. Like, after a while, I was like, I could see it in the camera. I think I can see myself, like, going through it right now.
Oh, damn. Sorry, Val. How's space?
It wasn't fun. Like, my heart started fluttering, and I was like, man, I'm feeling, like, high, and, like, I haven't had anything but an Advil today. What's going on?
Are you sure it's deja vu, or should you go to the hospital?
No, it was deja vu, because I knew all the words that was going to come out of your mouth as you were saying it.
Deja vu is such a fascinating experience.
Like, it's like, in my head, I was like, and she's gonna say this, and you said that, and then she's gonna say this, and then she said that, and the next word's gonna be this. I'm like, what the fuck's going on right now?
Maybe I'm just
either this is deja vu, or I'm like having this crazy, like I'm having this medium thing, or I'm just fucking reading your mind.
No, it's nice to have friends like you guys and friends like the ones who have been, supporting me in person too, like to be like, no, you're doing the adult thing. You are doing the correct thing. Because when you have somebody that you love a lot just telling you constantly that, no, you're wrong, or you shouldn't be reacting this way, or you shouldn't be saying these things to me, it starts to make you question yourself. Like, oh, maybe I am a know-it-all. Maybe I am, not validating them. And then in the end, it's like, no.
And then you just evaluate their personality and you're like, oh no, you were just wrong. Okay.
You know what it was? I called my best friend, who Vale, I don't think you've been on stream with, but Ivani, you have. I called her and started to tell her a little bit, and by the end of the conversation, she was just pointing things out. She was like, I bet she also does this, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, she does.
And she did that like for like half an hour, like she's probably this way, and I'd be like, yeah.
Oh, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a big, unfortunate learning experience for me that gave me a little bit of trauma, but
just a little bit.
We're working through it. It's fine.
Comes and goes.
I feel a lot better. Thankfully, it only took 3 months, but I'm feeling a lot better about the whole situation.
I mean, honestly, it still comes back because I've had the friend betrayal bullshit and kind of the deciding, hey, this isn't good for me, and it'll come back to you. Like, I don't wish any ill upon the person. I don't want bad things to happen to them. They had some rough shit in their life, and I think they were living in survival mode, and it doesn't excuse their behavior.
Yeah.
And if they called me and said I'm stranded in a hospital and I have nobody else to call, I'd go help them out.
And that's what I said to her too. I was like, listen, I still love you, and I still, want to be there for you if you ever absolutely need me. So, like, I unblocked her phone number. And I was like, you can call me if you ever need, like, if you're ever down and out and really need somebody. Like, I will be there. But we're not fucking having this conversation ever again.
Yeah, you can't, you can't
a friendship betrayal like that. Do you ever just have, like, that friendship PTSD?
Yes.
Where you're like, you become friends with someone else, and then like randomly you'll get hit with, oh, what if like this happens again, or what if I open myself up with this and I get bit in the ass like I did the other time?
I'm doing that with
sometimes I get friend PTSD.
The coworker that was betrayed, I'm doing that with her right now because I'm like I'm keeping very clear boundaries, but sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm going too far. Maybe I just need to like not and keep this distanced. And then I'm like, well, no, it's hard because now I feel like everybody needs to pass a certain test with me, but I don't know what that test is. That's it for this one. Be sure to join us for our next episode and check out our other content on Twitch and YouTube. We've got Late Night Dungeon Fight, J&H Nerdcast, and ND Vale. We also have another podcast, Out of the Spirit Box, where we talk about a bunch of spooky shit. Hope to see you there, and thanks for your support. Bye!
Bye!